Number 10. Speed Demon. Coming to us from the Amalgam Universe, a parallel universe that is composed of mashups of some of our favorite Marvel and DC characters, that was unfortunately destroyed thanks to the cross-multiveral conflict, comes Blaze Allen, a combination of Barry Allen and Johnny Blaze. Once a stunt rider working at a carnival, Blaze Allen becomes the Speed Demon following the death of his wife at the hands of the evil Night Spectre. He was convinced by Merlin to bond with the demon known as Etrigan, and from there, the entity known as Speed Demon was born. Granted the abilities of Ghost Rider, including his fiery powers as well as super strength, Speed Demon is not actually all that fast despite his name and lineage. While the character is a formidable fighter and an all-around powerful being, he falls very short in the speed department, especially compared to all the other speedsters. There have been other characters who have taken up this mantle, including both Jay Garrick and Wallace West, however all of their abilities seem to be similar to the originals. Check out Blaze Allen for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1996's Speed Demon, number 1. Number 9. Deceased Flash. Now a member of the anti-living, Barry Allen, formerly known as the hero The Flash, is exactly what you think he is, a zombified speedster. When the anti-life equation begins spreading worldwide, Barry went into hiding alongside Kid Flash, until they were found by Superman and Green Lantern. Leaving Wally in their more than capable hands, the Flash sped off to the Daily Planet where he encountered an infected Giganta. Thankfully though, she was taken down with a blast to the head from Cyborg. Soon after, we see the Fortress of Solitude turned into a shelter for the uninfected heroes. However, an infected Martian Manhunter was able to make it through, and not only did he kill Lex Luthor by just ripping him in half, he infected the Flash with a scratch to the back as well. Barry immediately ran out of the fortress because he didn't want to hurt or infect anyone else, and it didn't take long for him to become fully infected, and he started attacking the remaining survivors all across the world. He was finally stopped by Superman after the two collided into each other at full force, killing the speedster right then and there, but not before he was able to infect the Man of Steel. Give this storyline a read for yourself, starting with 2019's Deceased, number 1. Number 8. Barry Allen Out of Time. Hailing from a possible future, this iteration of the Flash is a much darker Barry Allen from 20 years in the future. This future Flash first appears in the Flash Annual Volume 4 number 3 as a broken man. Reeling from the death of a close friend and fellow speedster Wally West, Future Flash travels backwards through time on a crusade to murder all the former enemies he deems responsible for West's death, hoping to somehow change the future. His actions only widen a tear in the Speed Force, however, and the once hero ultimately decides to use a present-day Barry Allen's energy to seal the rift, proving his superiority in a one-on-one battle against himself. Because apparently the Flash is like a fine wine and only betters with age, the pair are soon interrupted by the arrival of Wally West. Able to take on both speedsters at once, Future Flash's actions caused the one thing he began his quest to stop: the death of Wally West. Give the storyline a read for yourself, starting with the Flash Annual Volume 4 number 3, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below.
And it's 7. Earth X. There's little known about the Earth X version of Barry Allen. Known as BLITZKRTEG in this reality, he's a fascist version of the Flash working alongside Dark Arrow and Overgirl, the Oliver Queen and Kara Zor-El of Earth X, who are also married, but that's a story for another day. In the Arrow vs. Crisis on Earth X crossover, Earth X Barry is actually nowhere to be seen. Instead, he's replaced by Reverse Flash, the Eobard Thawne of Earth 1. Even though on the animated show The Ray, which takes place on Earth X, there is a fascist Barry, so what happened? It's largely assumed that between his last appearance in the show and in the crossover, that Thawne arrived and took his chance to kill at least a version of Barry, even if it wasn't his own. Hence why the other Earth Xers were so trusting of Thawne, since he had bested their Barry. I don't know how this Barry got his powers without the particle accelerator, but what I do know is that even the Joker refused to work with the Red Skull when he realized that he was actually a fascist and not some kook in a wildly inappropriate costume, saying that he may be a psychopath, but he's an American psychopath, or something along those lines. So, Reverse Flash is worse than Joker confirmed. Like, this wasn't even a Reverse Flash who was raised in the fascist life. He just wanted to help out, which is messed up as hell.
Number 6. Dark Flash. Walter West is essentially an identical version of Wally West, just from another timeline, with their two histories mirroring each other's up until one certain point. Walter's version of Linda Park, the girlfriend/wife of Wally, is killed during a battle with Cobra. Turning him into a very bitter speedster and eventually the Dark Flash, Walter develops an authoritarian zero-tolerance policy for criminals, going so far as to cruelly maim them if they denied his actions and got in his way. Eventually, Walter learned that the love of his life was still alive and well in another timeline, and he set out to defeat Wally West and completely replace him. Able to easily take on his alternate timeline counterpart, Wally, who is often considered the fastest character to take up the Flash mantle, which further extends the parallel between the two. Check him out for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1999's Chain Lightning finale, Finish Line. Number 5. Inertia. Thaddeus Thawne II, aka Inertia, was created by Thaddeus Thawne in the 30th century as a clone of Bart Allen, aka Impulse, mixed with just a little bit of Thawne's genetic material. Now, unlike Impulse, who aged at an accelerated rate, Inertia was allowed to develop normally. Growing up, he was brought up to be patient and methodical and was taught by the elder Thawne to hate the Allen family with a burning passion, which ended up happening. I don't know, maybe it's genetic or something. The plan was for Inertia to travel back in time and replace Bart Allen, which you probably guessed didn't work. Thaddeus has the ability to alter time relative to himself rather than using the Speed Force like most of the other DC Universe's speedsters out there. He can apparently use this ability to move at speeds rivaling those of even Wally West, the fastest of the Flashes, and usually faster than the speeds that even Wally can muster in most cases. Since Thaddeus isn't actually moving at super speed, the temporal nature of his speed allows him to avoid the usual problems encountered by the other Flash-type speedsters like friction, seeing and hearing at near light speeds, and more. Although he hasn't made much of a mark during his time in comics, he's still done some pretty bad things, like when he gathered a group of Bart's rogues after Bart became the Flash, who just straight up beat him to a pulp. Check him out for yourself, starting with 1999's Impulse, number 50. Number 4. The Red Death. Once the hero of Gotham, Bruce Wayne from Earth -52 was forced to seek more extreme approaches to prevent crime after losing all of his Robins. Coming to the conclusion that he wasn't quite fast enough to fight crime, Bruce set his eyes on the Flash, deeming himself more worthy of the Speed Force than Barry Allen, which is pretty presumptuous, but okay, whatever floats your boat. After defeating Barry, Bruce strapped him to the front of the Batmobile and drove them both into the Speed Force using the power of the Batmobile combined with the Cosmic Treadmill. The two merged together and Batman became the Red Death, using his new powers to kill instead of just stopping crime, much to Barry's dismay as his consciousness was still very much alive in Bruce's head. Like all of the Dark Knights of the multiverse, the Red Death represents one of Batman's fears, this one being losing members of the Bat family and his love for them and regret for those he failed. His dialogue and his Speed Force infection also imply he might represent Batman's fear of old age slowing him down as well. Check him out in his first appearance in 2017's Dark Days, the casting, number 1.
Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Red Death. Red Death is a speedster that is an evil combination of Batman and the Flash, which already sounds terrifying, but wait till you hear his story. The Bruce Wayne of Earth 52 started off fighting crime with Robin, but Robins kept dying left, right, and center. So understandably, Batman got darker and darker, becoming more extreme with his, let's call them methods. Which honestly seems more realistic to me, aside from just quitting fighting crime. Which can't happen, otherwise we wouldn't have this story, right? And DC wouldn't make any money. This eventually leads him to Barry Allen, who refuses to give Bruce his Speed Force powers. So Batman, using the various rogues' weapons to fight off Barry, knocked him out. Once Barry was unconscious, Bruce tied him to the front of a Cosmic Treadmill powered Batmobile and drove them both into the Speed Force. I don't even know how that happened or worked logically, but okay, you do you, Bat Marty. When entering the Speed Force though, Barry and Bruce ended up fusing together into an evil Batman with super speed and a lust for killing, while Barry's mind was trapped in Bruce's body. He then gets a visit from the Batman Who Laughs, who asks him to join the Dark Knights, whose goal is conquering the multiverse.
Number 2. Black Flash. They say death eventually catches us all, but what happens when you're too fast even for death itself? Well, that's where the Black Flash comes in. Easily one of the most mysterious entities in the DC universe, Black Flash is a symbol of death for speedsters across the multiverse, appearing just before the death of every significant speedster. Able to easily keep pace with the fastest beings in existence, it seems death really is impossible to outrun, even for speedsters. The Black Flash first made an appearance when Wally West seemingly cheated death by using his speedster powers to escape the inevitable. When the Black Flash realized he needed a human host to properly function, he chose Linda Park as his host. After Flash Rebirth brought back Barry Allen from the dead, he also noticed that the Speed Force was changing him, and it was revealed that the Reverse Flash's actions had mutilated the Speed Force and was turning Barry Allen, its avatar, into the Black Flash itself. The entity that could turn any speedster to just by touching him. The current host of the Black Flash mantle is Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash. Check out this Horseman of Death for yourself, starting with 1998's The Flash, Volume 2, number 138. Number 1. Godspeed. August Hart was the former detective partner of Barry Allen. August was the only witness to Barry's accident that turned him into the Flash, so while going after a criminal organization called the Black Hole, August was struck by lightning during a Speed Force storm in Central City. He became the Flash's quote-unquote partner, but in secret. August became the ruthless vigilante known as Godspeed, and got his revenge on who he suspected to be his brother's killer. Godspeed is basically what the Flash would be if Barry Allen had one bad day. The Flash refrains from using his lethal force, but Godspeed doesn't at all. Godspeed's argument is that Central City would have been a much safer place had the Flash shown some bloodlust. He proves this point when he kills Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, who didn't have any speedster powers at the time. Thawne did get his revenge eventually though, because after Barry brings back Thawne via time travel, that Thawne kills August. Man, keeping up with that whole time travel and speedster thing is so tough. Either way, Godspeed is one of the most deadly and dangerous enemies the Flash has ever had to race against. Check them out for yourself, starting with 2016's The Flash Rebirth Volume 2, Number 1. Number 10, Wally West Super 7. Wally West of the Super 7 isn't necessarily darker in terms of actions, it's more so what happens to him in this universe. Don't know what the Super 7 is? Well, it's a team made up of the remaining Justice League members after the League was disbanded because of an evil alien bandit invasion. At first they were able to hold the invaders off, but when the alien leader Grendel issued a decree that every time a metahuman was seen, they would kill 1,000 people, and then 5,000 more when one tried to fight back. A lot of heroes decided to step back from the hero game, but not the Super 7. Wally was one of the few superheroes who dared to continue to fight, but unfortunately for him, his legs were broken and nearly destroyed completely during a riot, leaving him unable to run, which is, kind of his whole thing. Embarrassed and inconsolable, Wally moved to Seattle and took up the new identity of Jay Allen. However, it didn't take long for the Super 7 to find him and convince him to rejoin the fight. Wally is initially reluctant because he can't run anymore, and he reveals that he actually destroyed his own Flash suit, but don't worry, he still wore the Kid Flash ring. Eventually he decides that joining the team once again is the right thing to do. However, it doesn't end too well for him because he winds up getting impaled by a spear while saving the Green Lantern. Check out this sad Wally West for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1994's Adventures of Superman Annual Number 6. Number 9, SELA Allen. From the name alone you can probably guess it, but SELA is obviously a descendant of Barry Allen. However, she didn't have any powers. Her father was actually the wielder of the Speed Force, and that led to some pretty unfortunate events. In the year 2231, the Cold-Blooded Blue, who was the rival of her father, managed to capture all 3 of the Allen family, and he crippled SELA and killed her mother while her father was forced to watch. When her father was finally able to save SELA, he took her to the edge of the Speed Force in an attempt to heal her, as the damage done to her body was so extreme, but unfortunately it didn't work. 8 months later, her father was killed while fighting Cold-Blooded Blue, and somehow SELA managed to emerge as a physical form of the Speed Force. While her real body is technically still in the Speed Force, her conscious state exists as a manifestation projecting itself. Although she doesn't have an actual body, she has all the powers of the other members of the Flash family and took up the mantle of the Flash, just like her father and those before him. Give her story a read for yourself, starting with 1999's The Flash, Volume 2, Number 146. Number 8, Velocity. Also known as Overtake, this evil clone of Jay Garrick was created by none other than the Brotherhood of Evil and Monsieur Mala and sold to Ratu Brennan, dictator of Mali, and Ratu used him to guard his chemical weapons. With all of the same powers of the Flash minus the actual connection to the Speed Force, Velocity is absolutely not someone you want to go toe to toe with. Not only is he fast, he is incredibly sharp and able to think quickly on his feet, as he has shown that he adapts his fighting style based on the type of opponent he's fighting, and when he's up against teams, he quickly pinpoints the strongest member and takes them out first. He is first unleashed on the Outsiders when they're discovered by Brennan. The Speedster comes close to defeating the team when Metamorpho attacks him with acid and manages to overpower him. He's later taken by Green Lantern, who states that the Outsiders cannot be trusted. Give this evil clone story a read for yourself, starting with 2006 Outsiders Volume 3, Number 35. Number 7, The Rival. Real name Edward Clare, the Rival is the archenemy of the Golden Age Flash Jay Garrick and is one of the oldest speedsters around. Clarence was a professor at the university Jay Garrick went to and believed that he had the know-how and means to recreate the speed formula that gave Jay Garrick his powers in the first place. He was able to develop a drug derivative of the same formula called Velocity 9, and after taking it himself he gained the powers a speedster would have. However, he found out that they were only temporary. He became the criminal that he is because his findings were rejected by his fellow science peers, and decided then to don a darker version of Jay Garrick's costume and commit crimes under the name The Rival. After losing to the Flash the first time, the Rival resurfaced a couple months later, and during his battle with the Flash, he was somehow able to reach light speed and just vanished and was stuck traveling through the Speed Force until he was pulled out by Johnny Sorrow. Check him out for yourself in his first appearance in 1949's Flash Comics, number 104. Number 6, Baroness BLITZKRTEG. A member of the Fourth Reich, a team of some German ideological villains, comes Baroness BLITZKRTEG, a lesser-known speedster who never really used her powers for good. Alongside Shadow of War, Count Berlin, Baron Gestapo, and Captain Murder, the Fourth Reich was formed by Vandal Savage for the purpose of killing off descendants of the patriotic heroes of the Golden Age. Baroness did her share by targeting and eliminating several of Commander Steel's descendants, and after that she went on to target Stripesy's son, Mike Dugan. Thankfully though, Jay Garrick stepped in before any more blood could be shed. Since she hasn't made many appearances in the comics, we're not 100% sure how fast she is or what other speedster powers she possesses, but by no means does that make her any less evil. Now it's also heavily implied that she's related to Baron BLITZKRTEG, an enemy of the Golden Age team of heroes All-Star Squadron, however it's never really been confirmed or denied. Check her out in her first appearance in 2007's Justice Society of America Volume 3, Number 2.
Halfway through into number 5, The Rival. Edward Claris is the Rival, the archenemy of Golden Age Flash Jay Garrick. Claris was a chemistry professor at the university attended by Jay Garrick. He believed that he had recreated the formula that gave Garrick his speed. Bitter at the rejection of his research claims by the scientific community though, Claris became a criminal wearing a darker version of the Flash's outfit, the original Reverse Flash. The effects of this version of the formula however proved to be temporary and he was defeated when it expended. Decades later though, following the reformation of the Justice Society of America, Claris was retrieved from the Speed Force, because he had been put in there at some point, by the interdimensional supercriminal Johnny Sorrow, who invited him to join the new Injustice Society. Now composed of pure speed energy, Claris possessed Garrick's friend and fellow Golden Age speedster Max Mercury to get the Flash's attention. Rival committed a series of swift, gruesome murders at locations that, when mapped out, would spell out a message. We don't talk about the Arrowverse version, though. Like, I know his suit was meant to be similar to Daniel West's Reverse Flash, but come on.
Number 4. Hunter Zolomon. The second Reverse Flash, who has also gone by Zoom. Hunter Zolomon was a police profiler who was paralyzed in a battle with Gorilla Grodd. When Wally West refused to go back in time and prevent that accident, Zolomon tried to use Flash's cosmic treadmill to do it himself, resulting in a terrible accident that gave him his time-altering powers that mimic super speed. He also for some reason decided that the reason Wally West wasn't willing to take those necessary risks was that he hadn't endured the type of tragedy that Barry Allen had. Zolomon proceeded on a dark path intent on killing Wally's wife, Linda Park, so that Wally could finally become the hero that he was meant to be. I briefly mentioned this before, but instead of super speed, Hunter was granted time-altering powers that mimic super speed, meaning that he doesn't have a connection to the Speed Force. Instead, he uses something called localized chronokinesis, which is essentially a version of time travel that allows him to travel at speeds that rival Wally West. Unfortunately for him though, he was depowered during the events of Final Crisis, likely preventing us from ever seeing him at his fastest. Now why not give his story a read for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2001's The Flash Secret Files and Origins, Number 3. Number 3. Reverse Flash. No, we're not talking about Eobard Thawne, we're going to be looking at the second Reverse Flash, Daniel West. Daniel ran away from home at an early age because of his abusive and drunk father, and by the time he was 18, he had fallen into the wrong crowd and was a small-time thug. All he wanted more than anything was to mend his relationship with his sister Iris, but after his first attempt he was thwarted by the Flash and sent to jail for 5 years. When he got out, he wanted nothing more than to kill his abusive father because he felt that was the only way he could make amends with his sister, and gained his Speed Force powers that allowed him to travel back in time after a monorail crashed, and from then on he called himself the Reverse Flash and killed anyone who had a connection to the Speed Force so that he could drain their power. It got to the point where the only two left with a connection to the Speed Force were the Flash and Iris West, and Daniel was able to go back in time to attempt to kill his father. However, it didn't really work out, because his younger self and Iris caught him in the act. He then realized the error of his ways and turned his powers over to the Flash, who set everything right once again. Check out this Reverse Flash for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2012's The Flash, Volume 4, Number 0. Number 2. SAVITAR. The self-declared god of war and enemy of the Flash, SAVITAR is just yet another super speedster in the Flash's rogues gallery. He was once a Cold War pilot and received his powers after his plane was struck by lightning at top speed. Discovering that he could now defeat the enemy by moving at super speed, he became obsessed with speed and named himself SAVITAR, which is Hindu for god of motion, and dedicated his life to unlocking its secrets. He honed his powers and achieved abilities that no other speedster had yet mastered, like he learned how to transfer speed into objects and people, as well as how to almost instantaneously heal his injuries. Obsessed with gaining more followers, he became the leader of a cult known as the Thunderbolt Agents and used them to his benefit. One time he even gave them the speed of some of the Earth's greatest speedsters. He then sent them to murder Wally West, Max Mercury, and XS, among others. Thankfully though, DC's top speedsters rose to the occasion and were able to apprehend SAVITAR and his cult as well. Considering how fast and formidable SAVITAR appears to be, this big baddie is fairly unused. His ability to learn from and manipulate the Speed Force in new ways suggests that his potential has hardly been touched. Check him out for yourself, starting with his very first appearance in 1995's The Flash, Volume 2, Number 108. And coming in at number 1, the Reverse Flash. Now since we talked about the other Reverse Flashes, I thought we should talk about the original one, Eobard Thawne. Also known as Professor Zoom, Thawne was once the biggest Flash fanatic to ever live, even going as far as to recreate the reaction that gave Barry his powers, and having an operation done so that he could look just like Barry Allen. He really just wanted nothing more than to meet and befriend his hero. Now his killing tendency came up not long after that when he killed the cashier at the Flash Museum so he could use the holy grail of all Flash memorabilia, the cosmic treadmill, to travel back in time to meet his hero. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a miscalculation and he ended up appearing several years after Allen's death. Distraught and very upset, Thawne escaped to the Flash Museum to get some answers, only to find out that he was destined to become the Flash's greatest nemesis, Zoom. And needless to say, he didn't really take that news well, and this sent him down a dark path. Capable of basically all of the things that the Flash and his Speed family can do, like time travel, super speed, and electrokinesis, what really sets him apart is his ability to completely negate another's connection to the Speed Force, effectively stripping his fellow speedsters of their power and rendering them useless, honestly. Now if you're not familiar with this legendary speedster, check him out in his first appearance in 1963's The Flash, number 139.
Starting us off in at number 10, Black Flash. The actual physical representation of death for all speedsters, Black Flash is the Grim Reaper of the Speed Force. Making his first appearance in The Flash Volume 2, number 138 back in 1998, he was seen before the deaths of several speedsters including Barry Allen, Johnny Quick, and Bart Allen. But he also tried to return Wally West to the Speed Force, but was unsuccessful, taking Linda Park instead, Wally's girlfriend. Black Flash eventually did return to try to claim Wally again, freezing time for everyone without a connection to the Speed Force to do so, but thanks to the combined efforts of multiple speedsters, Wally was able to race Black Flash until the end of time, causing death to have no meaning. The CW Black Flash, which was really just Hunter Zolomon aka Zoom, was killed during season 3 when SAVITAR lured him out of the Speed Force and then Killer Frost froze him, resulting in her first kill that actually turned out to be her ex as well. Dare I say, ice cold. But that didn't stop the Speed Force anyway, since later on Barry Allen returned in the Flash Rebirth storyline in the comics, becoming the new Black Flash. So this is also a version of the original Flash as well as a separate entity. In at 9, Inertia. The bitter feud between the Allen family and the Thawne family would span generations. Even in the 30th century, President Thawne sought to recruit Bart Allen in his revenge campaign against the Allens, since Bart was half Thawne himself. When that failed, Thawne mixed Bart's DNA with Thawne's genetic material to create a speedster clone who he named Thaddeus Thawne. Whereas Bart grew in a hyper-accelerated world, Thaddeus' childhood was the exact opposite, because of course it was, he's the reverse. His development was super slow, which led the young speedster to become more calculated and methodical. Thaddeus was also taught to hate the Allen family, and Impulse in particular. In addition to this modification, Thaddeus' growth and development was slowed. This is in contrast to Bart's accelerated development. However, after killing Bart, Wally West had other plans. Upon hearing of Bart's death, an enraged Flash hunted Inertia down. Though he thought of killing him, Flash decided instead to do something worse. He used his abilities to slow Inertia's movements down to the point where he was totally immobile, essentially a living statue, and then he placed Inertia on display at the Flash Museum facing statues of Bart Allen as Impulse and Kid Flash. He could still think, see, and hear in normal time, but was frozen in place. Inertia was then just doomed to spend an eternity in a state of near total paralysis, staring at images of the guy he killed. In at 8, Godspeed. August Hart is the former detective partner of Barry Allen. August was the only witness to Barry's accident that turned him into the Flash, and while going after a criminal organization called the Black Hole, August was struck by lightning during a Speed Force storm in Central City. August became the ruthless vigilante known as Godspeed, and got his revenge on the man who he suspected to have killed his brother. He had given up on the justice system since his brother's killer had gone free, and with his newfound power, had the ability to become judge, jury, and executioner. August realized after he had gotten his powers that he also had the ability to steal others' speed, though for a time he could only do it by killing them. He practiced this skill to be able to do it non-lethally as well though. With his new godlike speed, August was able to move so fast as to create duplicates of himself at any given time, allowing him to give the illusion that he and Godspeed were different people, which is pretty damn sick, considering the alternatives are Speed Mirage and Time Remnant, which aren't exactly the same thing but are still fairly similar.
Number 7, BRYAN Mallory. Now, if you're not familiar with the Legends of Dead Earth storyline, it was a grim crossover event spanning across many DC titles that told stories of a possible future where the Earth itself had died long ago and its heroes were gone with it. However, the heroes still left an impression on history, and their stories and legends were passed down in various ways. Many, if not all of these legends, were spread around the universe by the Martian Manhunter himself, as this was his way of honoring the lives of his departed friends. BRYAN Mallory was one of the lucky few to receive powers from the Martian Manhunter, and he became the Flash of this frozen planet. Now, more specifically, the Mallory family were the receivers of the book and the gift, and it was their duty to pass it down the line to the eldest born son, BRYAN, as their worship of the Flash's life and the Speed Force allowed him to access the quote-unquote light, the power from which would save and sustain their people. With all the powers you would expect from a member of the Flash family, BRYAN used these powers to not only avenge his father's deaths, but also to save his people. Check out BRYAN in his one-off appearance in 1996's The Flash Annual Volume 2, number 9.
And at 6, Zoom. Hunter Zolomon was a serial killer from Earth 2, also known as the maniacal super speedster known as Zoom. Having gotten tired of being the villain, Hunter decided to also become the hero after capturing Jay Garrick, the Flash from Earth 3, masquerading as Jay to gain Barry Allen's trust. When he was 11, Hunter saw his father kill his mother. Hunter's father ended up in jail, and Hunter was raised in the foster care system since no relative wanted him. Hunter later became a convicted serial killer and was going through electroshock therapy when Earth 2 Harrison Wells' particle accelerator exploded underground. This ended up connecting him to the Speed Force and he escaped. Zolomon killed some police officers on his way out and left one to tell his story. The one police officer said he saw a man zooming around, giving Zolomon the alias of Zoom. Zoom later then killed that police officer in his house.
Number 5. Johnny Quick. A member of the Crime Syndicate of America, an evil version of the Justice League hailing from Earth 3, Jonathan Allen is Johnny Quick, the Flash of this universe. After conquering the entirety of Earth 3, the Crime Syndicate of America decided to abandon their Earth to terrorize and take over Earth 1 and 2. It took the combined efforts of the Justice League and the Justice Society of America to stop them, although unfortunately for everyone that wasn't the end of their reign of terror. Now, Johnny was initially depicted as being slower than the Flash, however he figured out a way to make up for his shortcomings by developing a helmet that vastly increased his top speed while also deepening his relationship with the Speed Force, making Johnny Quick more than a match for the Flash. Since then, Johnny has shown tremendous command over the Speed Force, defeating countless superheroes in a matter of microseconds in the Forever Evil storyline. It was only after Alexander Luthor, aka Mazza, stole his power that he met his end. Check him out for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1964's Justice League of America number 29, or feel free to skip ahead to his newer iteration starting with 2013's Justice League Volume 2, number 23.
And for Johnny Quick. Johnny Allen, alias Johnny Quick, is a criminal speedster from Earth 3. Together with his girlfriend and partner in crime Atomica, he was a member of the Crime Syndicate. Johnny Allen was a high-profile criminal on the run with his equally criminal girlfriend, cornered on the roof of Central City's Star Labs. Allen was struck by a bolt of lightning which shattered the roof, and the duo fell into the lab space below, with Allen landing amid some chemicals. Obviously, this is the thing that ended up granting him his super speed, and he went on to become a super criminal alongside his girlfriend who had also been empowered. He took on the name of Johnny Quick, while his girlfriend took on the name of Atomica. The couple joined the Crime Syndicate at some point after this. Johnny Quick, as he now called himself, ran through Central City answering to no one, until the day the White House burned, around the time of Darkseid's incursion onto Earth Prime. The being that had destroyed Ultraman's Krypton came to Earth, and an alliance of super criminals formed to find a way to safety.
Number 3. Black Racer. Otherwise known as the God of Death, the Black Racer is very similar to the Black Flash in a way because he is the physical manifestation of an aspect of death. What sets him apart from the Black Flash though is that he has one huge advantage. The Black Racer has the ability to possess a host and corrupt that person. This means that the already fast Black Racer can take hold of any of the top speedsters just like he did with Bart Allen that one time. The only thing scarier and faster than an evil Bart Allen is an evil Wally West, which the Black Racer is also fully capable of creating. Heck, even without possessing a speedster, the Black Racer has nearly caught up to the Flash on several occasions using his infamous cosmic skis that allow him to reach some ridiculous speeds. Now, unlike most versions of Death, he actually serves a master, which is Darkseid, who has proved more than capable of keeping the Black Racer under his control. Check out the Black Racer in his first appearance in 2015's Justice League Volume 2, number 44.
Penultimately, in number 2, SAVITAR. As a fan of the Arrowverse, I felt like I needed to include one of the most interesting speedsters in the show. SAVITAR, while sharing a name with another evil speedster from the comics, is actually revealed to be a time remnant of Barry Allen in the show, being more of a future Flash than a SAVITAR. Honestly, he's like a combination of both. His story, though, is pretty messed up. In essence, making himself and having a classic chicken and the egg scenario. In the post-Flashpoint Arrowverse timeline, SAVITAR comes back from the future to kill Iris West before her and Barry get married. This causes Barry to create as many time remnants as possible, which is basically a clone of himself, in order to stop him. But SAVITAR kills all of them except one. The one that he spares then gets shunned by the rest of Team Flash for not being the real Barry Allen, even though he is still the real Barry. It's weird. So in an act of fury, the Time Remnant runs back in time, creating a new identity for himself as the first speedster and the god of speed known as SAVITAR. But the suit he wears allows him to travel at basically instantaneous speeds, which the show Flash has not been able to do at this point, even in recent seasons. And finally, and at number 1, Reverse Flash. I know what you're thinking, okay? Isn't Eobard just the reverse Flash? Like, not actually a version of the Flash? In the main continuity, yes, but also thinking of the Flash Armageddon crossover, Barry Allen becomes the reverse Flash, so this could be another literal evil version of the Flash. But in the Dark Multiverse Flashpoint story, Eobard also becomes the Flash, and he kind of becomes his own form of hero in a way. A dark, twisted, messed up hero, hell-bent on eradicating competing heroes in the universe, but still a form of hero, right? Technically it counts. And I mean, like, he's still scary, alright? And a version of the Flash, so this counts for this list. In a universe where Barry Allen dies while trying to get his powers back with Flashpoint Batman, aka Thomas Wayne. But once Thawne tried to stop the war between Aquaman and Wonder Woman by threatening them and killing Arthur, you know there's gonna be some hell to pay. So he sets on shaping the world in his own image. This involves preventing Batman from ever becoming Batman and instead creating his own superhero team, full of versions of characters we know and love, but all with reverse Flash logos somewhere on their suits, usually. And I have to say, preventing Batman from being created is probably the smartest thing Eobard could have done, because either way, Batman is going to lead some form of resistance against you, so good on you. This is the smartest thing that any villain has ever done in the DC universe.